Welcome to We've Got a Country to Save, brought to you by Freedom Chat and AmFed Coin and Bullion. Freedom Chat has true end-to-end encryption, no storage of messages on the server, and no commercial use of user data. That way you can speak freely and message privately. Download the app today and subscribe to my Freedom Chat channel at Larry Elder for exclusive posts and never-before-seen content. We also thank Impactful Pictures, Old Glory Bank, Patriot Mobile, and My Pillow. Please be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast. Make sure to follow or subscribe to my channel on whatever platform you are using, whether X, YouTube, Facebook, or Rumble. Please patronize our sponsors so we can keep bringing you these awesome videos. And if you don't patronize our sponsors, well... We know where you live. And just like that, we get a 90-day pause in the Trump tariffs.
All right, let's get back to that breaking news from the White House. President Trump announcing a 90-day pause on all reciprocal tariffs as part of the social media post. It's a 90-day pause in tariffs.
In the meantime, there will be a 90-day pause on the reciprocal tariffs as these negotiations are ongoing, and the tariff level will be brought down to a universal 10% tariff.
Every country in the world who wants to come and negotiate, we are willing to hear you. We're going to go down to a 10% baseline tariff for them.
Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru, Republic, Dominican, Cuba, Caribbean, Greenland, El Salvador, 2, Puerto Rico, Colombia, Venezuela, Honduras, Guyana, and still Guatemala, Bolivia, then Argentina, and Ecuador, Chile, Brazil, Costa Rica, Belize, Nicaragua, Bermuda, Bahamas, Tobacco, San Juan, Paraguay, Uruguay, Suriname, and French Guiana, Barbados, and Guam, Norway and Sweden, and Iceland and Finland and Germany, now in one piece, Switzerland, Austria, Czechoslovakia, Italy, Turkey and Greece, Poland, Romania, Scotland, Albania, Ireland, Russia, Oman, Bulgaria, Saudi Arabia, Hungary, Cyprus, Iraq, and Iran, there, Syria, Lebanon, Israel, Jordan, both Yemen, Kuwait, and Bahrain, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Belgium, and Portugal, France, England, Denmark, and Spain, India, Pakistan, Burma, Afghanistan, Thailand, Nepal, and Bhutan, Cambodia, Malaysia, then Bangladesh, Asia, and China.
Except for China.
And China will be raised to 125 due to their insistence on escalation.
Do you know what it takes for Trump to defy conventional wisdom about tariffs?
It takes brass balls. Go and do likewise, gents. The money's out there. You pick it up, it's yours. You don't, I got no sympathy for you.
Can someone explain to me? We protect and defend South Korea. And in exchange, they steal our automobile industry, they steal our electronics industry. We protect and defend Japan, and in exchange, they close their market to our cars. We protect and defend Canada, and they run up a massive trade deficit with us. We protect and defend all of Europe at a cost of trillions of dollars over time, and what do? They run an over $300 billion trade deficit with the United States. Why should America protect the world, send foreign aid to the world, defend the world, provide for the world, and in exchange, get ripped off by every other country in the world? And what do we have to show for it? The deindustrialization of the heartland, the destruction of the American dream, the eradication of our industrial and manufacturing base that we need for our national security, and the crushing of the American dream. It has to stop, not to mention $36 trillion in debt.
All of a sudden, lefties are beginning to quote Milton Friedman.
The other part of the deal is making the tax cuts permanent, and maybe even, if I were them, cut the capital gains tax and offer to slash the corporate tax rate and see if you can get any Democrats to join, because I'm amused by the Democrats who are all of a sudden free traders and for lower taxes. Well, if you've got Democrats who'd like to reduce the taxation on corporate activity, well, let's see how serious they are. Cut capital gains, slash the corporate income tax rate. I find it amusing that everybody talks about the '08 crash and the COVID. No one ever mentions that in 2022, the S&P was down 20, the NASDAQ was down 33, and I don't remember any of these Democrats being in hysterics when the market fully crashed in 2022.
And no, this wasn't President Trump on how China cheats and rips us off. This is Nancy Pelosi, vintage 1996.
How far does China have to go? How much more repression? How big a trade deficit and loss of jobs for the American worker? And how much more dangerous proliferation has to exist before members of this House of Representatives will say, I will not endorse the status quo? As I mentioned, it's about jobs, proliferation, and human rights. And there are those who say we shouldn't link human rights and trade and proliferation and trade. I disagree. But if we just want to take up this issue on the basis of economics alone, indeed, China should not receive most favored nation status for several reasons that I'd like to go into now. I'd like to call the attention of our colleagues to this chart on the status quo that the business community is asking each and every one of you, each and every one of us to endorse today. Right now, we have a $34 billion trade deficit with China, the 1995 figure. It will be over $40 billion for 1996. Since the Tiananmen Square massacre, this figure has increased 1,000%, from $3.5 billion then to about $34 billion now. In terms of tariffs, I think it's interesting to note that the average U.S. MFN tariff on Chinese goods coming into the United States is 2%, whereas the average Chinese MFN tariff on U.S. goods going into China is 35%. Is that reciprocal? On exports, China only allows certain industries into China, of U.S. Industries into China, and therefore only 2% of U.S. exports are allowed into China. On the other hand, the U.S. allows China to flood our markets with a third of their exports, and that'll probably go over 40%. And it's limitless because we have not placed any restriction. In terms of jobs, this is the biggest and cruelest hoax of all. Not only do we not have market access, not only do they have prohibitive tariffs, not only are our exports not let in very specifically, but China benefits with at least 10 million jobs from U.S.-China trade. The president in his statement requesting this special waiver said that China trade supports 170,000 jobs in the United States, 170,000 jobs, whereas our imports from China support 10 million jobs at least. Fact is that U.S.-China trade is a job loser. And one of the reasons that it is because well, first let me just make another point, and that is that our colleagues on the other side of this issue will say the trade with China, exports to China have increased 3 times in the last 10 years. They have. But they fail to mention that imports from China have increased 11 times, thereby leading to this huge trade deficit. The other issue, in addition, if intellectual property is a $2 billion, $3 billion loss, technology transfer is in the hundreds of billions of dollars. If you want to sell to China, your products into China, the Chinese insist that you open a factory there. They misappropriate your technology, open factories of their own, and then say to you, now we want to see your plan for export. That's as simply as I can say it briefly. But the fact is, this isn't about products made in America. The Chinese want American products that are made in China. And the most serious of these transfers of technology are in the airline industry, where Boeing tail sections of the Boeing 737s were mostly made in Wichita, Kansas. Now they are made in Shen province, where workers make $50 a month. And the transfer of the technology and the transfer of the jobs has taken place. General Motors, Ford, they're all fighting to get in to build factories there so they can make parts there. They want MFN so they can get those parts back into the United States. So we are exporting not low-tech jobs and textile jobs. We're exporting our technology. Now, if you take a country the size of China with the very cheap, and in some instances, slave labor, the lack of market access, the rip-off of our intellectual property, the transfer of technology, a country that is not willing to play by the rules in any respect in this trade relationship, you have a serious threat not only to our relationship, but to the industrialized world. And if there's one message that I want our colleagues to understand today and our constituents, is that on this day, your member of Congress could have drawn the line to say to the President of the United States, Do something about this U.S.-China trade relationship that is a job loser for the United States. And this brings us to the point that others have said, well, we can't isolate China. Do you think for 1 minute that with 10 million jobs at least, and $35 billion and be over $40 billion this year in a trade surplus, all those billions of dollars in surplus, that the Chinese are going to walk away? Where are they going to take 35 to 40% of their exports? Who's going to buy them? This is what sustains the regime, the funding and the jobs. They can't have those people out of work. They have to be at work exporting to the United States.
And this was President Barack Obama in 2012.
We had a tire case in which they were flooding us with cheap domestic tires or cheap Chinese tires. And we put a stop to it. And as a consequence, saved jobs throughout America. I have to say that Governor Romney criticized me for being too tough in that tire case. Said this wouldn't be good for American workers and that it would be protectionist. But I tell you, those workers don't feel that way. They feel as if they had finally an administration who was going to take this issue seriously.
Did you know that trillions of data records were exposed in 2024? From the AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile data breach that exposed the text records of over 100 million Americans, to the Change Healthcare data breach, or even more recently, a hacking group claims to have stolen every single American Social Security number. People are confused, concerned, and off about the invasion of privacy that's currently going on. And yet, despite these concerns, many people continue to use messaging apps that claim to be private and secure. But are they? These apps also track your location, time spent on the app, your activities within the app, your browser, phone type, carrier, and even other identifiers such as your financial information and political affiliation. Newsflash, if you're not being charged for an app, you are the product. Your data is being collected and used, often without your permission and in ways you might not even realize. Here to tell you more is advisor, board member, and renowned radio and TV host, Larry Elder.
Freedom Chat is a private social messenger that allows you to message who you want and subscribe to the channels you want, all in complete and total privacy. With true end-to-end encryption, soon to be quantum-safe encryption, no storage of messages on your servers, and absolutely no commercial use of user data. Your conversations and your data belong to you, not big tech, not governments, not malicious hackers. Is Freedom Chat, Tanner, easy to use? Am I good at tennis? You see, with Freedom Chat, you can edit, unsend, and self-destruct messages, share images, videos, or GIFs.
It's GIFs.
GIFs?
GIFs.
Really?
It's GIFs.
It's not GIFs?
No, it's GIFs.
When did they change it? Prevent screenshots and customize fonts and colors and enable dark mode, all from one user-friendly dashboard.
Our team is working incredibly hard to make our dreams a reality, and we want you to join us.
Don't watch from the sidelines. Invest in freedom, invest in your privacy, and be a part of history.
Speak freely and message privately with Freedom Chat.
Download the app today. GIFs?
GIFs.
Honestly?
GIFs.
GIFs?
GIFs.
What does it stand for? It stands for I have a lot of choices about who I work with in the precious metals industry, and so do you. I really love the fact that for over 45 years, AmFed Coin and Bullion has been serving buyers and sellers of coins and precious metals. AmFed has earned a reputation for providing helpful information, transparency, and fair pricing. Nick Grovich is especially hands-on. He believes that educated consumers make strong investors. Nick is upfront and transparent about AmFed's commission structure. The typical markup, only 3 to 7% compared to many dealers that may charge as high as 35% or even more. That is a remarkable difference. When you are choosing to invest in gold, it's important to be wise in whom you choose to execute that investment. Call AmFed Coin and Bullion today, 1-800-221-7694, or go to AmericanFederal.com. If you're in the Phoenix area, make an appointment to visit them in person as I did. You will be impressed. That's 1-800-221-7694, or go to AmericanFederal.com. On tariffs, Trump ran on it, has been talking about tariffs for decades, and deserves and has earned the benefit of the doubt.
Joining us now, nationally syndicated talk radio host and the Old Glory Bank co-founder, Larry Elder. Larry, it's great to see you, sir. This is happening thick and fast. This is after China did strike back as China's imposing 34% tariffs on all U.S. imports starting on April 10th. But we're not at April 10th yet, Larry. It seems like nations are ready to deal. What do you think?
Well, I don't know about you, Liz, but I'm getting whiplash. Israel, by the way, has already negotiated down to zero. You know, the standard economic philosophy going from Adam Smith, the father of modern economics, to Milton Friedman, to Tom Sowell, is that free trade is good, even if it is unilateral. All of the above said, ideally, it's better to get your trading partners to lower their tariffs, but if they don't, you ought not shoot yourself in the foot by imposing tariffs on yourself. I think that they underestimate the ability of Donald Trump to negotiate and underestimate the power of this country, as Stephen Miller just now mentioned. If what you're saying is true, if these countries are all calling Donald Trump, once again, the man has been underestimated. And I think in the long run, as part of an overall economic package, which includes the Trump tax cuts, includes energy independence, deregulation, and the cuts from DOGE, overall, I think we ought to give him a chance, give him the benefit of the doubt, and let's see what happens. It's only been 2 days.
Yeah, exactly. It could be boom, a boom time. Let me back up.
Good.
So everything that you just said, also Wall Street is betting on at least 4 rate cuts this year, a possibility of 5 interest rate cuts. Goldman Sachs projects 3 rate cuts. Plus the odds of an emergency cut between Fed meetings is rising. So that seems like a golden era, a boom.
It does seem like it. And remember all these countries that have promised now to reinvest in America, to move their factories to America. All this is happening. And I think that Donald Trump's strategy overall will work for the American people if we're patient. And that's the question. Are we patient enough for this to happen? The tax cuts need to happen and need to happen sooner rather than later.
You know, Larry, we know that Democrats in the media are jumping on this, right? They're going to use anything to attack Trump. This is the broad zoom 30,000-foot perspective. It's about the fight to get cheaper goods from overseas like China to America, America turning from being an industrial and manufacturing powerhouse to becoming basically a paper economy built on a massive $37 trillion worth of debt that foreign nations like China own. The pandemic exposed how deeply America depends on China for the chemicals and drugs, for medical devices. And just recently, America became a net importer of food. We don't make our own food net, drugs, medical devices, computers. The White House is saying, buy American. It's going to get cheaper to make things in America, including auto parts. Is that true?
I think so. And also, there's a big component of this is national security, as you pointed out. The rely on China for things like chips is extremely dangerous. So no matter how you feel about these tariffs, the idea is to make sure that in times of war, we're able to manufacture what we need in order to wage that war.
Yeah, listen, nobody likes the NASDAQ going deeper into bear territory, the S&P going deeper into correction, or the Dow into correction. So that's the pain that people are feeling, Larry. What would you say to them?
I would say if you are a young person, now is a wonderful opportunity to buy and hold over the long haul. That's the way. If you believe in America, you believe in the country, you ought to invest in America while you're young, and don't let the news of any particular day or week or even year affect you. Buy and hold. And when you get to my age, you won't have to work.
Listen, Larry, I'm older than you, so don't make any jokes. It's good to see you, the wonderful Larry Elder. And don't forget it, I am older than you. I could be your mother. No, I'm just kidding. Larry Elder, you're terrific.
Trump just announced reciprocal sweeping tariffs across the board. What does that mean?
Reciprocal tariff?
Yes.
A reciprocal tariff is reciprocal.
So if they're doing it to us, we're doing it to them now.
When you were a kid in kindergarten, or whatever, you were a kid, right? You go to school, someone bashes you in the side of the head and runs, and then the bell rings and you can't get him back. What do? You wait, like, I'm going to get that guy back.
Whip his ass.
Eventually, you want to get one back, right? That's what a reciprocal tariff is.
Okay.
So basically, the premise is, to me it's common sense. It makes sense, right? You get all these other countries in the world that tariff us. Like one example they brought up was very simple, right? The EU tariffs our automobiles 10%, American automobiles. We only tariff their cars 2.5%. So is it fair? No. Why? They're 10 and we're at 2.5. Okay, so hey, you're gonna hit us at 10 and we're gonna hit you at 10, for example. So basically what he's trying to do is the administration is trying to look at the entire big picture of tariffs and all these countries that tariff our exports and reciprocate. Like, hey, you're going to tax us on this, I'm going to reciprocate. And it's also more than that. They're looking at all sorts of other things. There are things that are not tariff but can act like a tariff. I mean, they call up the VAT tax. I think the VAT tax issue, in the EU or in the countries in the EU, like Spain, Italy, whatever, they have a VAT tax, which is actually a sales tax. We have it too. The only difference them over there is like a federal across the board thing. Here, sales tax varies by state.
Right.
But anyway, I don't want to get into that. But the point is, he's trying to look at everything that is from a trade perspective that's not fair against the U.S. from the rest of the world and try and come up to par and make it equal, right? Because there are a lot of countries that tariff us and we don't tariff them back. There are a lot of countries that do go around tariffs and import duties in the U.S. by moving their operations into another country that isn't tariffed. He's going to crack down on that too, right? So that's what it is. It's reciprocal.
Do you think this is going to be...
The devil is in the details, because what he said is, someone said that it's not like, oh, you tariff me 10%, I'm going to tariff you back. It's not that simple, right? It's never that simple. It's very, very complex. Because you look at ramifications of they're going to take a deep dive. But I think the point being is this time they're looking at it from a reciprocal standpoint. They're like, okay, let's first make a short list of all the countries that tariff us on stuff that we do not tariff them back. And then we go from there and research and look at everything in detail and see. Bottom line is see whether it's fair or not. And what's the calculus of coming up with quantitatively fair? They're going to have to calculate it. That's the thing about what's going on right now.
I think that Trump could very well go down in history as the Ronald Reagan of our century. And the reason is China right now, because Xi Jinping has turned his back on consumption as the basis of the Chinese economy, his only way out is to export more. Nobody can replace the U.S. market, the world's largest, and certainly not in the short or intermediate term. And Donald Trump's tariffs, when we're talking 65%, that basically closes off most of the American market to Chinese goods, which means that Xi Jinping now has no answers at all, and his economy could very well fail because of what President Trump is doing. And what President Trump is doing is absolutely justified.
Gordon, I know you've been extremely busy. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us. Tell us about what Donald Trump has done to China's economy.
Well, the Chinese economy has been really the victim of Xi Jinping's sort of semi-Maoist policies. And really what Trump has done is he's now challenged China at the worst possible time for Xi Jinping. First of all, the Chinese economy isn't growing at the 5.0% pace that they reported for last year. It may not even be growing at all, Larry. But the point is, it's now having its 2008 downturn. Because in 2008, the Chinese did not want to have a recession. They overstimulated their economy. Now they got to pay back debt. Trump is now imposing tariffs because of China's predatory trade policies. China has no good options right now.
How does all of this end? How do the trade tariffs against China ultimately end? Where do you see this going?
This is going to take a long time because Xi Jinping is not going to do the economically rational thing. I think that this lasts a long time, but I also think that he gets left out in the cold because Trump will do trade deals with Japan, South Korea, EU, and that means China isolates itself from the global trading system.
Not every CEO is freaking out over the tariffs.
There's a lot of news today about what's happening in Washington with tariffs. And to me, what's happening there is a genuine desire from the administration to actually create more careers like we create here at United Airlines for middle-class Americans, and to strengthen the middle class here in the country. And I think that's a laudable goal. You may disagree fairly with the way we get there and the tactics to get there.
This is really the essential point of working closely with our leaders in D.C. on the details, because the details matter greatly. You know, we have thousands of parts in our American-made vehicles, and we want to keep them as affordable as possible. Some of those parts, like wiring looms and others, are specialty kind of work. And as we work through this with the administration, we're optimistic we can find the right balance between affordability and a strong industry where we can add jobs to the industry in the coming months and years.
Tariffs are going to be very good for the American manufacturing worker. We're very excited about this new leveling of the playing field. Right now, when we export, for example, this basket to Germany right here, it's a precision medical basket, a medical device basket. When we ship that to Germany, the German government taxes our clients $128.95 per basket. If a German competitor ships it to America, it's $1.25 per basket. It is so unfair what's happening to the American worker. They can't compete when you have that kind of unlevel playing field. We're talking about an opportunity finally to create a lot of millions of American jobs, middle-class jobs, if we could get it fair. We're not looking for something over the German factory workers or the British factory workers, the Chinese factory workers. We just want to be fair. If we're fair, the American technology, creativity, work ethic is going to just do extraordinary things. And we're going to create millions of American jobs with this new paradigm. It's wonderful news.
And there was this huge anti-Trump, anti-Elon Musk nationwide rally called Hands Off, presumably meaning hands off of my Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
So we say to them, hands off our Social Security. Hands off our Medicaid. Hands off our public schools. Hands off our child care. Hands off our science and research. Hands off our veterans' benefits. Hands off our civil rights. Hands off our bodies. And hands off our vote.
We got the right to read the books we want. We've even got the right to call the president deranged for crashing our economy, destroying $6 trillion of wealth and turning my 401k into a 201k. Let's tell MAGA what democratic movements all over the world tell the dictators of the world. Hands off the courts. Hands off the courts. We're winning with veterans across America who know which side we were fighting on in World War II. And when they see Nazis marching down the boulevard, they don't see very fine people on both sides of the street. There's no future with presidents who have the politics of Mussolini.
No matter who you are, Elon Musk and Donald Trump and corrupt congressional Republicans are coming for you. If you are a mother struggling to put food on the table, they are coming for you. If you have elderly parents that you are trying to put in a nursing home, they are coming for you. If you are a senior relying on Social Security, they are coming for you. If you have disabled children and you're trying to make sure they have access to education, by cutting the education department, they're coming for you. So they want you to believe. They want you to believe to look at your neighbor as the enemy. They want you to believe that it is because of trans kids that you can't have the necessary access to the programs we already paid for. They want to crash the economy.
So we sent our man in the street, William Porter Nelson III, to cover the rally in downtown Los Angeles.
Can you tell us about your sign today?
It's pretty self-explanatory, no?
What inspired you to bring that out here today?
Fascism.
Can you expand on that?
No, you can look it up.
Have you punched any Nazis in the last week?
That's not something I'm willing to disclose.
Has there been any Nazis here today?
Yes. They're everywhere. They might hold the microphone.
And why do you say that?
Why not? I don't know you.
What do you think is the worst thing the Trump administration has done so far?
Yeah, you're not gonna get anything out of me. Good luck.
Okay, well, thank you. Take care. Well, we're here. We're in downtown LA doing some coverage of the hands-off protests. It's pretty packed, a lot bigger than the Santa Monica Anti-Elon protest that I attended last week. And we're going to hear from the people, hear what they have to say, hear what brought them out. Let's get to it. Can you tell us what brought you out here today?
Yeah, so the main reason why I came out here today is because Trump, #1, and my body is my right, and I want to make sure that I'm ensuring the future of my body and my children and all the women that are around me today.
What do you think is the worst thing Trump has done so far?
I can't really say what the worst thing is. It's kind of, I think, the fact that he doesn't hold true to his word.
How much for the t-shirts?
$5, sir. I want everybody to get one.
Did you make these?
Sure. Yes, sir.
How long did it take you to make these?
Awesome hours, man. You got to sit up to artwork and everything. You know what I'm saying?
Well, what do you think is the worst thing Trump has done so far in this current?
Everything, man. Everything on his shirt. Everything.
But like what specifically?
Like a gangster, man. He jump in like a gangster, man. He want to take from everybody that they done set up throughout the year, like welfare, Social Security, man. Social Security is your money. You earn it.
Have they taken Social Security yet?
He want to with all of it. See right here? It's on the shirt. He want to mess with.
Did you lose your Social Security?
Man, if he gets the fooling with it, I'll lose Social Security.
But he hasn't yet.
Not yet, but the point is, what I'm talking about, though, man, it could come up to the time, Jack.
It seems as if the protest budget did increase since last week, because I will say this one is significantly bigger. Why do you think the Democrats lost last November?
There were a lot of people that were just thinking about themselves. And if they just heard what Trump said and they felt that, hey, this guy's going to give me if he says what he's going to do, I'm going to be better off, and now look at us, you know.
I'm seeing a lot of signs that say deport Musk. I guess I didn't know this was going to be a crowd that's so in favor of deportations. Can you tell us about your sign, sir?
My sign just means that I'm a senior citizen and I can only afford so much. I depend on my Social Security, and 25% out of my Social Security is just not going to cut it for me to pay my rent, pay for my food, my insurance.
Have you lost your Social Security yet?
Not yet, but I'm being told that I got to save as much as I can, so I'm starting to collect aluminum cans again.
Who's telling you this?
The neighborhood. The people in the neighborhood are frightened, you know, just as well as I am.
Which neighborhood?
Oh, I'm out in the South Bay, Wilmington.
I think I can, without a doubt, say this is probably the most vaccinated crowd I have ever been in. Now everyone's kind of sitting around. There's some music going and some speeches and a lot of joints being smoked, and it kind of feels like we're at a really gay Coachella.
I'm a senior, and just my husband and I are depending on our Social Security.
Have you had your Social Security cut yet?
Not yet, but I'm keeping an eye on it as recommended by the bank that I'm currently banking with.
So your bank informed you that Social Security may be cut?
Yes.
If you don't mind me asking.
No, they didn't inform me. I just mentioned it, brought it up to them in terms of what's going on with the Social Security. Should I be worried about it? Because I automatically get it coming to my account.
What do you think is the worst thing he's done this time around?
I think the worst thing he's done is get elected.
Do you think it was a fair election?
No, I don't think it was a fair election.
Why do you think that?
I don't trust what happened. I don't know if I could prove it ever, but I'm not thrilled with it.
I gotta be honest with you guys, as a 29-year-old single guy, I'm looking around and I'm not seeing much talent.
Not that it matters, but here's what Elon Musk actually said about Social Security.
How do you reassure people that what you all are doing is not going to affect their benefits?
No, in fact, what we're doing will help their benefits. Legitimate people, as a result of the work of DOGE, will receive more Social Security, not less. I want to emphasize that. As a result of the work of DOGE, legitimate recipients of Social Security will receive more money, not less money.
All right.
I want to emphasize that point and let the record show that I said this, and it will be proven out to be true.
So you heard me talk about Patriot Mobile for a while now. You probably already know that for years, they've stood in the gap for every American who believes that faith, family, and freedom are worth fighting for. They are the real deal. But did you know they've got cutting-edge technology too? Switching is easy. No store visits, no hassle. Keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Their 100% US-based team can activate you in minutes right over the phone. And get this, Patriot Mobile is one of the few carriers with access to all 3 major U.S. networks. That means exceptional nationwide coverage, plus they can even put a second number on a different network on one phone. It's like carrying 2 phones in one. They have unlimited data plans, mobile hotspots, international roaming, internet on-the-go devices, and home internet backup. You can't get this from the big guys. So what are you waiting for? Make the switch today and experience the Patriot Mobile difference. Go to patriotmobile.com/Larry or call 972-PATRIOT, and right now use promo code Larry for a free month of service. Switch to Patriot Mobile and defend freedom with every call and text you make. That's patriotmobile.com/Larry or call 972-PATRIOT. MyPillow is excited to announce that they are extending the mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. This is your chance to grab incredible deals on some of MyPillow's most popular and newly released items. For example, save $40 on the new spring MyPillow bed sheets available in any size and color. These luxurious sheets are designed for maximum comfort and breathability, perfect for a great night's sleep. Looking for a meaningful gift? Save 30% on the brand new My Crosses, inspired by the one Mike has worn every day for over 20 years. These beautifully crafted crosses come in both men's and women's designs and are proudly made right here in the good old US of A. Get the 6-piece bath or kitchen towel sets for just $39.98. Initial quantities are extremely limited, so do not wait. And don't forget the best-selling standard MyPillow, now just $17.98. Plus, orders over $75 ship free. Go to MyPillow.com and use promo code Larry or call 800-890-1843 to order right now. That's MyPillow.com, promo code Larry, or call 800-890-1843 to order right now. Now, back in 2017, Dean McKay, the then executive editor of the New York Times, said this about the left.
We're at a moment in the country right now, which I think, the left should do some soul searching too, right? We don't want to hear anything that we've long said this about the right, but I think the left, I'm a journalist, but the left as a rule does not want to hear thoughtful disagreement.
Now, proving his point, this is or was a Turning Point USA Prove Me Wrong tent on a college campus. Speaking of media bias, CNN's Jake Tapper indignant over being accused by the Secretary of Agriculture of being on the left.
Everyone, especially on your side, on the left, is freaking out.
I'm not on the left. I'm not on the left. I'm not on the left.
Hold up. Really, Jake? Really?
Everyone, especially on your side, on the left, is freaking out.
I'm not on the left.
Is it possible that the Republican Party is now the party of deranged bigots? Do you think it's racist to vote for President Trump in 2020? A Republican from Florida who lost his legs, by the way, fighting for democracy abroad. Although I don't know about his commitment to it here in the United States.
We go through this every single time Republicans control the House. You guys can't pass legislation. You can't govern.
We'll see how much congressional Republicans are willing to meet President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris on this field of decency and normalcy. It's not just President Trump that has been eroding norms of decency and
He's
truth.
had a lot of help.
I hope you don't take this personally, but do you guys have any idea how clownish you look? So Republicans obviously seizing on this horrific tragedy at the University of Georgia. This girl, this nursing student, killed by an undocumented Venezuelan migrant, and they're seizing on this as an example of Biden's failure to protect the American people. It seems like so much of how politicians address these issues is about demonizing the other side on critical race theory, on trans students. I see a lot of people in the Republican Party doing that. There is no evidence of any wrongdoing by either Joe or Hunter Biden. The dehumanizing rhetoric of Adolf Hitler is once again alive and well on a national political stage. This time, of course, in the United States. President Trump has gone to, quote, extraordinary lengths to keep specifics about his meetings with Russian President Vladimir Putin secret, even keeping them from top members of his own administration. Take a listen to how President Trump responded Saturday night when asked directly if he has ever worked for Russia.
I think it's the most insulting thing I've ever been asked. I think it's the most insulting article I've ever had written.
The president did not directly answer the question. It's a stunning turn of events. Do you think the president of the United States ever worked on behalf of the Russians against American interests? Though the original protests are about race and the protesters were almost entirely black, and the team owners whom the president was calling upon to fire or suspend those players are almost entirely white, and the president chose to launch this campaign in front of an almost all-white crowd in Alabama. Despite all that, the president insisted that this has nothing to do with race.
This has nothing to do with race. I've never said anything about race. This has nothing to do with race or anything else.
It is 100% true that the president never said anything about race. He did not have to. This entire discussion is about black men protesting racial injustice. One, of course, wonders why, in the president's view, a black man protesting racial injustice by kneeling during the anthem is a son of a bitch, while whites marching alongside Nazis in the Klan to protest the removal of the statue of a Confederate general is a, quote, very fine person. But I digress. Wolf, it has also been a time of extreme divisions, many of the divisions caused and exacerbated by President Trump himself. It's been a time of several significant and utterly avoidable failures, most tragically, of course, the unwillingness to respect facts and science and do everything that can be done to save lives during a pandemic. It has been a time where truth and fact were treated with disdain. It is a time of cruelty where official inhumanity, such as child separation, became the official shameful policy of the United States. But now the Trump presidency is coming to an end. To an end. With so many squandered opportunities and ruined potential, but also an era of just plain meanness. It must be said, to paraphrase President Ford, for tens of millions of our fellow Americans, their long national nightmare is over. I'm not on the left. I'm not on the left. I'm not on the left.
Ever notice how many legacy news stories begin with a federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to yada blah, etc.?
In breaking news, a federal judge in Maryland, Judge Paula Zinnes, has ordered the Trump administration.
A federal court judge just told the Trump administration.
Contentious day in a D.C. federal courtroom as a judge told the Department of Justice it will face consequences.
Tonight here in Washington, there is a tone of defiance coming from the White House as a federal judge is still waiting on answers from a Justice Department that doesn't seem eager to provide them.
And then later that night, a judge ordered the Trump administration to stop.
A monumental ruling from a San Francisco federal court this morning. It makes a major change for thousands of federal employees.
A judge has ordered a preliminary injunction.
The judge said that the government used, quote, lies and gimmicks.
Well, a federal judge has ordered the Department of Government Efficiency, along with the Trump administration overall.
A judge is ordering the Trump administration to reinstate some probationary federal workers.
A federal judge yesterday refused to delay a deadline for the Trump administration.
Order from the judge in Rhode Island saying, look, government, it appears to me based on the evidence that's been put in front of me by the collective states attorneys general, who are the plaintiffs in this action, that you haven't been following my order.
A federal judge is giving the Trump administration until 11:59 tomorrow night.
A federal judge ordered the Trump administration.
A federal judge has given the Trump administration until Monday.
Breaking news, a federal judge has ordered the Trump administration to...
The federal judge is considering what consequences, if any, the Trump administration will face after hearing arguments today over whether these officials...
All right, we turn now to the Trump administration standoff with a federal judge.
New tonight, a federal judge is ordering the White House to...
We have major breaking news on the immigration front today. A federal judge ordered the Trump administration...
The judge then decided in this hearing today that he wasn't going to wait to give a written ruling. He decided, you know what, I've heard enough. He decided he was going to rule from the bench today. T-O-D-A-Y, today.
So Senator Chuck Schumer, outraged over Republican senator referring to him as the Fuhrer.
New tonight, Senator Bernie Moreno facing strong criticism for remarks he made that Jewish leaders say are unacceptable. According to our partners at Cleveland.com, Moreno referred to Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, who is Jewish, as, quote, Führer, in criticism of Democrats following his orders.
Senator Schumer, do you and your colleagues plan to call for a censure of Senator Moreno?
Look, let me say this. What Senator Moreno did is absolutely despicable. It's anti-Semitic, plain and simple. It's outrageous. I lost lots of people in the Holocaust to Hitler. And for him to use those words, first, we demand he apologize immediately, but we also demand that his Republican colleagues start denouncing him on something that is so blatantly anti-Semitic.
And Schumer somehow, some way managed to blame President Trump.
Yeah, look, Donald Trump is, he may not be an anti-Semite, but he certainly tolerates anti-Semitism in so many ways, calling me a Palestinian, don't tell my mother. But also talking about in Charlottesville, both sides had good people. When he brings an anti-Semite like Fuentes to sit at his table at Mar-a-Lago, when the Great Replacement theory, which we all know is a conspiracy theory among the hard right, that Jews are trying to replace the white race with immigrants. Every other president, Lawrence, every other president, Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, whether it's Reagan or Bush or Clinton or Obama, when there was bigotry, their job was to push it down. Donald Trump, he either revels in it or just lets it stay right there. That shows you one of the many, many reasons he doesn't deserve to be president.
Sigh. Back to the both sides lie. And Lord knows Democrats would never resort to Nazi, Hitler, fascist rhetoric. Would they?
I know it's a loaded word, but when you say you're going to be dictator on day one, I mean, look up the definition of fascism, the characteristics of a dictator, an authoritarian. I mean, General Milley said it himself, but Trump, again, reinforced it himself. So I don't think it's overstating.
This is stuff from the 1930s. This is Hitler stuff.
Yes, he is an authoritarian figure.
General Mark Milley was quoted saying Donald Trump is fascist to the core. What is driving Harris to support this language publicly?
I mean, it's the truth. It's what people believe. And I think that she wants the American people to really take a hard look at who she is running against and who could be the president and in charge of the nuclear codes.
Yeah, I mean, he's a feral guy. Like, he's a very animalistic human being.
I think this one is, don't risk it with this. This is dangerous talk. This is the talk of dictators.
Someone who suggests we should terminate the Constitution of the United States should never again have the privilege of standing behind the seal of the President of the United States. Never again. Never again. Never again.
We on this side of the TV screen have said all we can. We've laid out the stakes in this crucial election, where one side stands for freedom while the other meets the textbook definition of fascism. Namely, a far-right dictatorial regime like Hitler's Germany or Franco's Spain or Mussolini's Italy, but also white-ruled South Africa before Mandela and the black majority took control, or Vladimir Putin's Russia, Viktor Orban's Hungary, or Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela today, that suppresses the rights of women and minorities, uses the military to execute the whims of a strongman dictator, and controls and suppresses the press, education, the arts, rewrites history to suit a favored and dominant racial class, and foments extravagant corruption in order to enrich the dictator and his friends. We've warned you about Donald Trump's...
Now, the country is going lurching back to the right. I hope it's not going as far right as that which happened in Germany in the 1930s, but you may remember I forewarned way back in 2018 that I saw this coming. I've studied history all of my life. I mean, since being a preteen, I've been enamored with this country's history. And I can tell you what I said back in 2018 on another network is now coming to pass. People chastised me for saying it at that time, but now they are seeing it.
Well,
And that's
how
why
are we
see
seeing it? He's not president yet. I mean, are you visiting another Hitler? Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. I said the 1930s in Germany.
Yes, you did.
And of course, and we can go to Mussolini in Italy.
They didn't do that only to see us submit to the will of another petty tyrant. These United States of America, we are not a vessel for the schemes of wannabe dictators. Donald Trump said that because he does not want a military that is loyal to the United States Constitution. He wants a military that is loyal to him. He wants a military who will be loyal to him personally. That Donald Trump would invoke Adolf Hitler, the man who is responsible for the deaths of 6 million Jews and hundreds of thousands of Americans. All of this is further evidence for the American people of who Donald Trump really is. This is a window into who Donald Trump really is. It is clear from John Kelly's words that Donald Trump is someone who, I quote, certainly falls into the general definition of fascist, who in fact vowed to be a dictator on day one and vowed to use the military as his personal militia to carry out his personal and political vendettas. Donald Trump is increasingly unhinged and unstable.
The dehumanizing rhetoric of Adolf Hitler is once again alive and well on a national political stage. This time, of course, in the United States. Donald Trump, a couple times over the weekend, referred to immigrants from South America, Africa, and Asia. He did not mention Europe. South America, Africa, and Asia as, quote, poisoning the blood of our country, which it's not hyperbole. That does very directly echo Adolf Hitler's language before World War II. To open up a copy of Hitler's Mein Kampf, you would find the Nazi leader describing the mixing of non-Germans with Germans as poisoning. There's really no other way to say it. Donald Trump's language mirrors this directly.
Well, I think I don't understand why people are not taking him seriously, because you read about it historically in other countries that they didn't take the people seriously. I think Hitler, Mussolini, but they're fools and clowns. Well, there will be, and I hear it. There's some people. I mean, who does not think that this guy is going to do exactly what he says he's going to do?
Right.
He's done it already.
We sit on our couches. Oh, I don't believe in voting. You idiot. If that man gets in, as soon as he takes the oath, he will have generals walk down the steps of the Capitol. He will take a hammer and break the glass where the Constitution is, and he will tear it up in our faces and say, now, I'm the king of the world. You will bow down. He will punish everybody that didn't vote for him. Let me tell y'all how I know this. I know it because I know what mental illness looks like. That mania is unstoppable. See, this motherfucker is Hitler.
And not to belabor the point, but can you explain exactly what makes Trump a fascist?
So what makes Trump a fascist? What makes Trump a fascist?
He does things without
Yeah, talk loud. I don't have my mic on.
Oh, I'm not really good into interviews stuff like that.
Sorry?
He just does everything he wants, and not following laws, or he's a convicted felon. That's all I know.
But your sign says he's a fascist, and I'm just curious what makes him a fascist.
One of the things
is that he's trying to control the media, right?
Say that again?
He's trying to control the narrative. Like,
how is he trying to control the media? Doesn't every president try to control the narrative?
They try to control their own narrative, but one of the things that Trump's has done, for example, is the renaming the Gulf of Mexico, and then not allowing the Associated Press to come into the White House. Basically, trying to get.
What are your feelings about him renaming the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America when a majority of the Gulf is in fact on the coast of America as opposed to Mexico?
I mean, it's kind of pointless. People.
Is it pointless?
Yeah, people call it the Gulf of Mexico. What's the
Don't
point
you think
of
it could have a
changing the name?
positive tourism impact potentially?
Tourism has been down heavily.
So I don't want to get into a tourism debate. My question is, the sign says
Yeah.
the fascist Trump regime must go.
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious what makes him a fascist. You pointed out that maybe something about his relationship with the media, he wants to control it, but
Yeah.
how? Again, you're calling him a fascist.
Yeah, well,
what makes him a fascist?
One of the core tenets of fascism is creating an enemy, right, and blaming those problems on
What's
the enemy.
that?
Oh, yeah,
So-
the paper gave me, yeah.
Who gave you that?
The people that gave me the sign. It's a free sign.
Oh, someone gave you the sign, and then they gave you the handout. So are you reading it now to try to answer the question?
Yeah, but I mean...
Can I see that? Can you hold that up?
I'm just not...
I'm just curious.
Maybe you can have it.
I can have it?
Yeah, you can have it.
Alrighty. So where did you get the sign?
All the way in the gatekeeper's house.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just pretty cool.
And that's another one? They gave you two pieces of paper?
Yeah.
Can I have that one too?
Yes, you can have both.
Oh, okay. So what brings you guys out here today?
Just because I saw people were hanging out with people from...
Yeah, same thing as everyone else, executive overreach.
Why isn't your bank asking what's in your heart? When big banks cancel your account because they don't like your politics, or they share your transaction data with the government, it's no wonder they don't ask what's in your heart. That's not what they care about. Old Glory Bank is different. We're the pro-America online bank that protects your privacy, security, and liberty. Started by Dr. Ben Carson, Larry Elder, and John Rich, we proudly serve customers in all 50 states. Open your account in minutes at oldglorybank.com. We stand with you.
Do you think EVs are better for the planet than gas-powered cars?
I think so. Yes.
Probably not. Yes.
No.
Yes, I think so. I don't think so. I mean, it's hard to say.
Yeah, electric is probably the best way to go.
When I first began hearing this business about net zero emission, I felt conflicted.
We will eliminate in the state of California the sales of internal combustion engines.
And most countries in the world have already signed up for it. I love my gasoline-powered cars. I don't want the planet to be damaged, so I just don't know what to believe. Is it really true that electric vehicles are better for the planet than gasoline-powered vehicles?
So without more mechanical parts moving in the vehicle, it's instantaneous. Torque is instantaneous.
The batteries are lasting very long. Charge them at your house using solar is amazing.
That's it? Wow. I needed to get my hands on one of those cars.
What is your opinion of electric vehicles?
Oh boy, sorry. I'm not real fond of electric vehicles. They're good for around town. If you long distance, they create anxiety. Had one fire, sitting in the parking lot, just burst into flames. And then you're having a problem with the battery. What do you do with these batteries when they go bad?
When I think about visiting Ogbog Bloshi, it brought me to tears.
This metal to the lithium-ion batteries demand skyrocketed in the past decade.
It's hard to get one mine permitted in the United States, which means we're going to be relying on those people who control those minerals, and that's China.
And I'm not willing to financially support that humanity atrocity.
An electric vehicle is a computer with 4 wheels and some seats.
The components of these electric vehicles are made in China, so there could be tracking mechanisms put into Americans' cars.
And I believe that the United States needs to stand up against that.
And my father always told my brothers and me the following: hard work wins. You cannot control the outcome, but you are 100% in control of the effort. And before you moan and groan, ask yourself, what could I have done to change the outcome? My one question, my big overriding question would be real simple. Are EVs better for the planet than gasoline-powered vehicles? Speaking of illegal immigration.
Yes.
Yes.
Julio Rosas, Blaze Media.
Oh, pleasure.
How you
Pleasure.
doing? How you
Very
doing,
fine.
sir?
How are you?
I just wanted to ask you how it feels to see
Not right
that
now.
the
Thank you,
United States has a secure border now that President Trump is in office, as opposed to when you were Secretary of Homeland Security. Do you have any regret facilitating an open border, sir?
My name is Cindy Romero. I'm a wife, a mother of 5, a grandmother of 3, a part-time worker and student, and a former resident of Aurora, Colorado. I'm one of the many victims across the nation of the violent transnational gang, Agua, and a former lifelong Democrat.
Border crossings are down 95%. Do you regret allowing Agua to gain a foothold in the United States, sir?
Unattended baggage is subject to search in section damage.
You don't have anything to say, sir, about your time as Homeland Security Secretary? Facilitating an open border?
And in the spring and summer of 2024, we noticed shuttles dropping off large number of illegal immigrants onto the property. Throughout the year, we watched in horror as a few apartments full of migrant families quickly evolved into large groups of gun-toting, military-aged males, threatening the remaining leaseholders into abandoning their properties, then kicking in the doors to the many vacated units to make room for other gang members. Open-air drug use, drug dealers, and seemingly underage prostitutes filled the common areas of the buildings. Large parties in the parking lots lasted well into the morning. Stolen and abandoned vehicles blocked residents' cars, property damage was evident, and random shootouts soon began to be expected on our block every night.
I mean, it was a big issue, sir. It's one of the reasons why President Trump won re-election. You don't have anything to say about it?
These criminals brought in unlicensed electricians to run electricity to abandoned apartments and locksmiths to change the locks on the outside of the buildings to deny access to the owners, emergency services, and even the leaseholders of the building. Despite several calls for help to the Aurora Police Department, they often provided conflicting excuses for not responding. For example, one officer told me that he wanted to respond, but was instructed not to. We realized the need to invest in home protection, and we purchased 3 additional handguns and 6 cameras in the event that we had to defend ourselves. And during June and July, the gang members slowly began to torture us through intimidation, loud arguments, physical conflicts outside our door every night, vandalizing, taking over vacant apartments on our floor. And after several confrontations with the gang members, several calls, and submitting video evidence to the Aurora Police Department with no results, we gave up trying to stop them from squatting on the property.
Do you have regret about losing track of facilitating the losing track of all those thousands of migrant children that are handed over to HHS?
We spent the next few weeks looking for another rental, and we were unable to locate another low-income property rental that didn't have the same exact issues that we were facing every day. We reached out to local mainstream media, several NGOs in our community begging for help, only to be turned away because we were just ordinary taxpayers. There were no government programs to grant citizens temporary protected status from imported gangs in our own country.
Please move forward to next door. Please do not enter the corridor. Doors are closing. Please clear the door.
On August 18th at 11:21 p.m., 10 minutes after my now viral video was recorded, a young man who I called my friend was mortally wounded outside my apartment during a firestorm of bullets, causing thousands of dollars in damages to cars and surrounding properties by 6 gunmen later identified as Trinidad Agua.
How does it feel that because of the Biden and Harris administration's policies, mass deportations actually gained the majority support?
When I heard that Mr. Trump had taken an interest in Aurora and our struggles with Trinidad Agua, I was relieved. I was hopeful that a change was, getting ready to happen, that it was on the way, that it was impending. And as president, he did not disappoint me.
I mean, sir, Trinidad Agua didn't have a foothold in the United States before you guys came into office. It's a pretty big issue, right?
I continue to think that the lives of my family and many others in my community were put at risk by the Biden administration's failed sanctuary policies at the southern border. Sanctuary status puts citizens at risk. And we must stop pushing ideology over common sense.
So you're fine with how you guys handled the border?
I hate my job. One.
Want to get away?
Let me go back to the question. That's as accurate as it is irrelevant, which is, my question is, you said that the border was secure. What did you mean when you said the border was secure? Is that not a lie?
Senator, you've asked me now if that is a lie, and I have assured you that I have honored the oath of office that I have taken.
In what way was it not a lie then?
Senator, with the resources and authorities that we have, it is as secure as it can be.
The media and our friends in the Democrat Party kept saying we needed new legislation, we must have legislation to secure the border. But it turned out that all we really needed was a new president.
Now, it's only been roughly 100 days into the second Trump administration, and the southern border is probably the most secure it has ever been.
Last month, the Border Patrol recorded the lowest level in illegal border crossings in at least 25 years. Our Camilo Montoya Galvez traveled to both sides of the U.S.-Mexico border to talk to border agents and migrants, some of whom are now deciding to go back home amid the harsher U.S. policies.
Just feet away from Mexico, our cameras captured a heavily fortified U.S. border.
This has been known for so many years for the high level of smuggling activity.
That has been true historically, but not anymore.
The activity is very slow. There's multiple factors attached to why we have seen a significant drop in apprehensions recently. One of them, of course, is consequences.
And you believe that is due to new policies from Washington, D.C.?
It has a lot to do with that.
It is quiet here at the U.S.-Mexico border, where illegal crossings are down by more than 90% from the same time last year. We have seen Border Patrol agents, soldiers, and vehicles and barriers, but no migrants so far. President Trump has shut down the U.S. asylum system, empowering officials to swiftly deport migrants without processing their claims. He has also deployed thousands of troops to the border and tasked the military with deportations. It's a crackdown felt across the border.
You spent how long, going along the
About
border?
4 hours.
And how different was this trip versus past trips during different
Well, we did not see a
administrations?
single migrant or asylum seeker, and typically when we go to the U.S.-Mexico border, we at least see one group of people who are trying to cross into the U.S. illegally. We did not see a single migrant. We saw soldiers, Border Patrol agents, and National Guard troops, and vehicles and barriers, but no migrants.
President Trump took office, and his executive orders on immigration have changed policies and changed life along the border.
ABC 13's Daniela Hurtado is traveling along the border this week. Daniela, you made it from Eagle Pass to now El Paso. What is the mood of that particular city this afternoon?
I think that's been part of the most captivating thing during our trip so far here in El Paso, to see just the stark difference, right, from what we saw back in 2023 when we saw hundreds of people in the streets around the churches, tent cities, coined Little Venezuela, really so many folks on the streets, refugees that had crossed into the United States through the CBP One app in hopes of seeking an asylum case and in hopes of getting legality in the United States. Today, completely different. We don't see hundreds of people on the streets across this border city in El Paso. We're not seeing that demand at shelters here locally either. Some shelters that used to have hundreds of people that didn't even have space inside their shelters for the need of these people now only have maybe 40 across all of their shelters in this border city.
Recent data from Customs and Border Protection shows apprehensions along the southern border from January 21st through the 31st were down 85% from the same period last year. Border Patrol recorded nearly 30,000 apprehensions of migrants who crossed the southern border unlawfully last month.
Illegal crossings here, Vlad, are now down more than 90% from the same time last year. And over the weekend, the Department of Homeland Security reported the lowest single-day tally in migrant crossings in over 15 years. So there has been a sharp, dramatic reduction in illegal crossings.
More than 130,000 people encountered the U.S. Border Patrol as they tried to cross illegally into the U.S. from Mexico in February last year. But this February, that number was down to around 8,300.
Because Biden allowed millions of people, many of them criminals, many of them at the highest level. They emptied jails out. Other nations emptied their jails into the United States. That's an invasion. And these are criminals, many, many criminals. Murderers, drug dealers at the highest level, drug lords, people from mental institutions. That's an invasion. They invaded our country.
That approach on the Mexico border includes halting asylum indefinitely, deploying troops, strong-arming Latin American governments to curb migration, and widely publicizing deportation flights filled with shackled migrants.
Illegal border crossings have sunk to the lowest level in at least 25 years. Preliminary government data obtained by CBS News shows Border Patrol officers apprehended nearly 8,500 migrants between points of entry along the U.S.-Mexico border last month. That's down about 70% from January. Unlawful border crossings have trended downward over the past year since hitting an all-time high of 250,000 in late 2023.
What's behind this drop in border crossings?
Well, look, I think we have to first emphasize how stunning and remarkable this drop is. Fewer than 9,000 migrants were processed at the U.S.-Mexico border after crossing into the country illegally in February. That is compared to some days during the Biden administration when Border Patrol recorded more than that on 24-hour time spans, including up to 10,000 people in a single day. So it is a dramatic, stunning turnaround at the U.S.-Mexico border.
South Texas was the busiest corridor for illegal border crossings for almost a decade, from 2013 to 2022. Now, Border Patrol vans sit idly as agents conduct searches for migrants entering the U.S. illegally.
The RDV has been the epicenter for 8-9 years, and then everything changed and went to the Del Rio sector, and that's when we saw thousands of people under the bridge out there. And after that, it switched towards El Paso, and then after that, it switched to Tucson.
These days, all along the border, there is quiet. The Associated Press went on a ride-along with U.S. Border Patrol in McAllen, Texas on Thursday. No arrests were made in the 5-hour-long patrol. Things were similarly calm last month in San Diego, which was the busiest corridor for illegal crossings much of the last year. In a 6-hour-long patrol, agents apprehended only a handful of migrants they came across in the last half hour. President Trump has made a show of force along the southern border.
Hey, you guys good over there? Promises made, promises kept. Gavin Newsom says it is unfair for biological men to compete against women.
So you right now should come out and be like, you know what? The young man who's about to win the state championship in the long jump in female sports, that shouldn't happen. You as the governor should step out and say no.
No, and I appreciate
but like, would you do something like that? Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. So that's easy to call out, the unfairness of that.
But does he really mean it? There was a bill here in California to prevent biological men from competing against biological women, and the bill died in committee. Did Gavin Newsom support the bill?
Well, I didn't pay any attention to the committee yesterday. I was literally spent most of the day talking about LA fire recovery with our teams. And progress is being made there, by the way, but we're starting to run up into some of those abundance conversations around permitting that's already starting to take shape, where most of my focus was yesterday. As it relates to that issue, my position is, I think, known. And that issue came to the fore with me on multiple occasions as governor. Came right into the office. We had a state track meet where there were 2 athletes that got into the finals. And because of, because people's reaction to that, they ended up not playing in the finals. And so you had 2 folks that didn't get in, 2 folks that did, no one playing. We tried to figure out how to balance this. Is there a way to make this work? We worked with experts. We literally were talking to some of International Olympic Committee experts. We talked to our own state experts. We were trying to figure this out and couldn't figure it out. And that's my point of view, that I just couldn't figure out how to, quote unquote, make this fair. That said, I don't know there's a bigger champion for LGBTQ rights as an executive in the country. And I mean that. That's done more over the course of decades than I have. And so I'm deeply sensitive and empathetic to the community. And I can't stand those that demean the community and bully the community, talk down and use this to weaponize a political agenda. And I made that point. I said, you can hold both things in your hand in terms of the statement that I made on this at the time. And I continue to make that point. And so I'm looking just for empathy. These kids just want to survive. And so the question you're asking is the question we've been asking ourselves for months and haven't been able to answer. What is that finally? How can you make this fair? And I haven't been able to figure it out. And I'm about as transparent about this as anybody out there, particularly in my party, on this. And to the extent someone can and do it in a way that's respectful and responsible and could find the kind of balance, then I'm open to that discussion. That said, this is not where all my energy flows. You're talking about a very small number of people, a very small number of athletes. And my responsibility is to address the pressing issues of our time. And this, I think, has been colored in and weaponized by the right to be 10x, 100x bigger than it is. And so my focus is on a myriad of other issues in this state. And to the extent that someone could find that right balance, I would embrace those conversations and the dignity that hopefully presents themselves in that conversations, meaning the humanity around that conversation, not the politics around that conversation.
What the bleep did he say?
And so you had 2 folks that didn't get in, 2 folks that did, no one playing. We try to figure out how to balance this. Is there a way to make this work? We work with experts. We literally were talking to some International Olympic Committee experts. We talked to our own state experts. We were trying to figure this out and couldn't figure it out. And that's my point of view, that I just couldn't figure out how to, quote unquote, make this fair. That said, I don't know there's a bigger champion for LGBTQ rights as an executive in the country. And I mean that. That's done more over the course of decades than I have. And so I'm deeply sensitive and empathetic to the community. And I can't stand those that demean the community and bully the community, talk down and use this to weaponize a political agenda. And I made that point. I said, you can hold both things in your hand in terms of the statement that I made on this at the time. And I continue to make that point. And so I'm looking just for empathy. These kids just want to survive. And so the question you're asking is the question we've been asking ourselves for months and haven't been able to answer. What is that? How can you make this fair? And I haven't been able to figure it out. And I'm about as transparent about this as anybody out there.
I thought Kamala's word salad was bad.
When we talk about the children of the community, they are children of the community. Talking about the significance of the passage of time. right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time.
We got to take this stuff seriously as you are, because you have been forced to have to take it seriously.
You need to get to go and need to be able to get where you need to go to do the work and get home.
Certain issues are just settled.
Clearly we're not.
No, that's right. And that's why I do believe that we are living, sadly, in real unsettled time.
Finally, okay, not exactly a Trumper.
I like your MAGA hat. Yeah, Trump. Woo!
It says gay.
Oh, I know.
Just checking.
Trump fan.
Never know.
Trump?
No. It says make America gay again.
Great again.
Gay.
I know, but we love Trump, right?
This lends a new meaning to road rage.
You know it's a crime to have a Trump dance sign. Oh my God! In the main line.
I can't believe you said that. What is wrong with you?
Oh, what is that? Oh my God!
What is that?
Oh my God!
Oh, that's just great. What happened?
Oh my God! Oh!
What?
These people! They're full!
I have to get to work. Don't tell me you got a flat.
Look what they did!
Oh, boy.
Oh.
Well.
Now, the governor of Ohio signed a bill to ban DEI in colleges. One of the lawmakers standing behind him was a black Republican. However, this photo was published in the Cleveland Plain Dealer. Notice anything missing from the actual photo? Where's Black Lives Matter when you need them? Ever have one of those days where you just want to phone it in? Nailed it! Hope you enjoyed We've Got a Country to Save, brought to you by Freedom Chat and AmFed Coin and Bullion. Freedom Chat has true end-to-end encryption, no storage of messages on the server, and no commercial use of user data. That way you can speak freely and message privately. Download the app today and subscribe to my Freedom Chat channel at Larry Elder for exclusive posts and never-before-seen content. We also thank Impactful Pictures, Old Glory Bank, Patriot Mobile, and MyPillow. Be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast. Make sure to follow or subscribe to my channel on whatever platform you're using, whether X, YouTube, Facebook, or Rumble. Please patronize our sponsors so we can keep bringing you these incredible videos. And remember, we've got a country to save. Just launched this week from the Elder Shop, new So Much for Climate Change shirt and hoodie, inspired by the irony we're all seeing, like Tesla's going up in flames. This gear says what everyone's thinking out loud and clear. Perfect for anyone who's had enough of the climate hysteria and wants to bring a little truth and a little humor to the conversation. Grab yours right now at LarryElderShop.com, and don't forget to use promo code ELDER25 for 25% off. Stand up, speak out, we've got a country to save.